Parks Planning Commission meeting Thursday, August 18th, 2016. Roll call.
Commissioner Camerota?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Fields?
Here.
Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Commissioner Sperber?
Here.
Commissioner Vanderwell?
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Doug Thornton?
Here.
Assistant Community Services Director of Development Armando Fernales?
Here.
Public comment. This item is either for public comment on any action item or for general public comment and is limited to no more than 3 minutes for each commentator. Any public comment? Close public comment. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Approval of the minutes. There are 2 sets of minutes. First set of minutes is from the meeting of August 4th, 2016, the Planning Commission meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've got one correction on item number 5, or not item number 5, I'm sorry, on item number 11 in the thing. We show the date of June 30th, 2016. It's the date when the end of our new members' date. Do you know what the right date is there? Okay, so it should be June 30th, 2018.
Yeah, I got
Verse
that
16.
too. I think it's a typo error, isn't it? Just a typo. It should be noted though.
Then Diane, you're actually have it for a year, so.
Oh,
Not,
thank you.
not us voting in the past to put you up. So that's the only correction
Let the
I've
record
got.
show that's 11, item 11 under general business, the motion.
Right.
Okay.
Under that, turns out move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes of August 4th, 2016 pass. So second set of minutes are from August 4th, same date, 2016, the Planning Commission workshop.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on page 3, and it would be paragraph 8. It starts with TER, so I don't know if there's supposed to be wording before it,
Got
or...
that too, thank you. Looks like there's a dangling phrase there. Three paragraphs from the bottom, first sentence. And confirm that the trip generation for this use. Everyone see that?
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderwell. Correction. Does anyone know what that word is supposed to be?
Yeah.
If we're not able to tell you, I would suggest that maybe we defer approval of these minutes to a subsequent meeting, and we can provide you a revised copy that has the correction.
Okay, motion to defer approve.
No, one more second. Commissioner Vanderwell has multiple corrections.
No, it was just this
Just the one?
Just
Okay.
one.
My fault.
Can I proceed, counsel? Thank you. Let the record show those minutes will be,
We'll check the record, and we will revise them and provide them to you for your consideration
so we will defer a motion.
at a future meeting.
Okay. There will be no motion on the second minutes for the workshop of August 4th, 2016. Good enough?
Yes.
Thank you. Announcements and committee reports?
The only announcement I have, Mr. Chairman, is that the September Planning Commission meeting will be held on September 5th, as you may recall. September 15th, I'm sorry. Right. I think we checked in with the members, and given that September 1st is the Thursday before the Labor Day weekend, we felt it would be appropriate to go push out to our other date, which is the third Thursday of the month, and that would be September 15th.
Any informational items?
I do not have any.
There being none, we'll open a public hearing. Item number 8. consideration of and possible action on proposed amendments to the Sparks Master Plan, now referred to as the Sparks Comprehensive Plan, including changed use designations, adopting new goals and policies, and removing the North Sparks Sphere of Influence Plan, the Transit-Oriented Development Master Plan, and the West Pyramid Plan, and other matters properly related thereto. Possible action.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Karen Melvin, Development Service Manager. As you just stated, this is a review tonight of our comprehensive plan that we've been working on for almost a year now. We've had numerous meetings with you to review different components and as we develop this plan. So what I'd like tonight is just to briefly go through where we're at on the document tonight, and then be having discussion and questions that you have for us. Man, knocked me out of the slideshow. I don't know what I did there. Okay, so the background, real quick. Our current master plan, as we've discussed in the past, is composed of numerous individual elements, and they have been adopted at different times over the year. You'll see in I think it's my next slide, I'll show you the different elements. In 2015, the City Council set as a priority to update our master plan, which now we are calling the comprehensive plan. And based on our public outreach process that started in December 2015 and through June of 2016, we received 2,500 surveys, and we had public meetings and neighborhood meetings. We prepared this comprehensive plan based on the input that we received through all that public input. Nevada revised statutes requires that a city of our size, we have to have a population element, a housing element, conservation, and public facilities. You'll see on this list, I'm not going to name them all, but you can see these are our individual elements that we have right now, and then in parentheses behind them is the date of when those elements were adopted. So you can see we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 elements, different separate elements, and what we're doing with this comprehensive plan, except for the Parks and Rec, we are incorporating all the other elements into, or eliminating those into our comprehensive plan document. So this updates and replaces our current elements. It has new goals and policies, which we'll discuss shortly. Basically, this comprehensive plan is a big picture document. Big picture policy document is the intent of it. It integrates the typical master plan elements into our 7 topics. The document is composed of 5 chapters. Chapter 1 summarizes what is a comprehensive plan, discusses compliance with the Nevada revised statutes and Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency area regional plan. It also summarizes the public outreach process that we went through to develop this plan. Chapter 2 is called The Pathway to the Future. In this chapter, we have a vision statement which makes Sparks the ideal place to live, work, and play. We have 5 challenges. We've discussed these before, but briefly. The first one is growing while staying in a small town. The second one is getting around. Third one is a vibrant downtown. Fourth one is sustaining the city's fiscal health while maintaining city services and facilities and amenities. And the last one is meeting the needs of the community. These challenges were identified by the answers that were in the survey, and we felt that they were challenges that we need to address in our comprehensive plan. For example, growing while staying in a small town. One of the things that came out in the survey was that people want a small town, but they also want us to grow. So the critical thing is to make sure that we manage that growth. Another topic that was raised by the public outreach was getting around or traffic issues, and so that is another topic that we want to. People wanted a downtown area, a vibrant downtown. With the development that's happening downtown, that may change the complexion of downtown to more of a residential area. And it's always important that the city has a fiscally healthy, but we also have to keep up with the growth and providing city services and facilities. I'm not close enough to the mic. Chapter 3 is our background chapter. We have facts about the city. It also includes the history of the city and environmental cultural resources. That is actually our conservation element. It addresses the environmental and cultural resources, natural hazards, geologic hazards, air quality, and renewable resources. Also in this chapter is population, discussion, housing, and public facilities that are provided by the city, and then also public facilities that are not administrated by the city. And we discuss the economy, the city's economy in this chapter. The fourth chapter is actually the heart of the document. This chapter is where all our goals and policies are. We start out with a narrative in each section talking about what each topic is about, or what it addresses, or what issues need to be addressed, and then we have our goals and policies, and I'll discuss those in a minute. The first of the 7 is managing growth, connectivity, community facilities and services, community character, housing, resiliency, and conservation, and economic vitality. The intent of having these 7 topics is, instead of having the elements in silos where you talk about population or talk about housing, we're trying to, in this comprehensive plan, integrate the growth issues with all the land use issues, but also related to traffic and community facilities and providing these services. So that's why we've broken it into 7 topics, is to integrate the topics, and so that we can discuss them relating to each other, and not instead of having a separate topic unto itself. The first one is managing growth. In this topic, we are proposing 6 goals and 16 policies. The policies that encourage a mix of land use. That was one thing that the public came back and said that they really would want mix of use. They also want infill and redevelopment and revitalization of our older downtown areas. So those are some of the policies that we addressed in this topic section. Policy MG4 establishes review criteria for the master plan amendments over 5 acres in size. So there are now criteria that would be considered when you have a master plan amendment. Policy MG6 addresses annexations requests and establishes application review criteria that would be considered when you're looking at an annexation. And also MG8, this policy is for projects that are in the city's sphere of influence. This policy determines or defines review criteria, that if you want to bring a piece of land that's not in our sphere of influence, the process that you would have to go through and what criteria that we would look at for consideration of that project. The next topic is connectivity. In this one, we're proposing 3 goals and 9 policies. These goals and policies are intended to ensure that our streets are improved to a multimodal, meaning that they're streets that can be used by not just vehicles, but pedestrians and bicycles. And then also that they would be continued to be used as such. Policy C4 requires that sidewalks would be on all of our street networks within the city. Policy C5 addresses converting 4th Street into a bike boulevard. Other policies also promote pedestrian-friendly environment, which would facilitate walkability and a transit ridership. And then policy C8 ensures that miles of our existing trails and pedestrian ways and sparks are maintained, and that we can complete our connections. We have a lot of little segments of trails and stuff, and so one of our goals or policies is that we would like to get the connectivity between the existing trail system. Also in this section, we included a map, which is a complete street map. Now this map, you'll see on here different hierarchies of the type of complete street. We have identified on here, these are the streets that we would like to have as complete streets, but we've also established by the color the hierarchy of what type of street they would be. The blue streets are sidewalk, bike lane, and also a roadway. If you see the orange street, that's sidewalk and a roadway only. And then the green street is a bike lane, but it's also we're identifying as a potential bus rapid transit route. what the intent of this plan is, these are the streets that we want to see that have these conditions on them. So if a project comes in, for example, from regional transportation, we would go back to this map and say, okay, are you designing that street to be consistent with our complete street map? So that's the intent.
Karen,
Yes.
real quick, on the green one, where you said bike only and maybe buses
The
later on?
BRT,
So is bicycles, period, no autos?
No, it would also be automobiles.
Okay.
Yes. All of these streets will have vehicles on them. But it's also, that's being identified as a potential bus rapid transit. Hence, we would need to make sure that we have good pedestrian facilities, and then we also want to have bike facilities. Because on the buses, you can put your bikes and, so that's another connection with the bike system is using your bike or walking.
Do we know at any time in the future if Reno will enter on, that's 4th Street, correct? Or Prater?
Prater connects to 4th Street, yes, that is
Right.
one of the projects that is prioritized by RTC.
But at rapid transit, does Reno have that already? Is there 4th Street, do we know?
No. Oh,
Yeah,
he
could
just brought to my attention that, yeah.
that what?
I pulled this map accidentally from an old presentation. In the plan that's before you tonight actually has an updated map. I
Right.
apologize.
That's-
You'll see that the green line, we actually are only doing the BRT now as the yellow on here. So it's in Prater, which will then be connecting to the City of Reno's 4th Street project.
Right. And just so you understand, presently, the rapid only goes up and down Virginia Street, goes to their downtown and south, turns around at the mall, and then presently they're trying to do a project getting it up to the university. And this would be the second transit one, and this thing is actually under design and probably starting, I know, within the next 6 months.
Yes.
Or something,
I believe
right?
it's- Yeah, anticipated.
Yeah.
It's early 17, isn't it?
Right, so this will be our next one, and the multimodal 4th Street.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
We can go back to the PowerPoint. Thanks, Jim. Good catch.
Wrong.
This other exhibit, this figure that we have in this chapter is identifying our trail systems and identifying what's a walkway, a bikeway, or a trail. So this is also a map that we want to, be able to show where
Yeah.
our existing trails are, or where our future trails are, and also where we need to get some connections. The next topic is the community facilities and services. Under this one, we're proposing 2 goals and 19 policies. Policy CF1 states that the land use entitlement cannot be approved unless there is acceptable service levels can be provided. Now, the word acceptable would be, determination when we're reviewing the application, but we want to make sure that there is adequate services that can be provided to any entitlement property. Policy CF3 requires the city to adopt criteria for allotting excess sewer capacity. We're in the process right now of doing a sewer study for the city to identify if there is sewer capacity. And what we want to do with this policy is we're proposing that if there is excess sewer capacity, that some criteria would be set up on how that would be allotted to projects. And that would be a policy decision made by the city council. Policy CF5 states that when parks are eliminated due to development, for example, when they built the Target eliminating Don Mello Park, the park facilities must be replaced with an equivalent facility. And that would be to the agreement of not only with the city, but also the developer. So it would be to the policy actually states that it's a mutual agreement. Per policy CF9, the city will strive to maintain a 6-minute response time for 85% of the city. That's for fire department response. And then based on the comments from our public outreach survey. The policy CF11 calls for the city to explore the possibility of establishing a satellite police office. This would be manned by civilian staff, so it wouldn't be at a police station. It would be a place where the policemen can go in and file their reports, and possibly people could go in and do some paperwork with the civilians, but it would not be a police station.
Why wouldn't they want to man it? I mean, if we have a facility like up in the north somewhere, why wouldn't the police want to man it with one or two policemen? Rather
Right
than-
now,
like
the-
a civilian right now can get on the web and do whatever they want for the city of Sparks.
Well, one of the reasons that we put this in there and talking with the police department, right now, when the policemen are out in the field and they have to do work on their laptops, filing a report or something, they don't feel safe because they can't pay attention to what's going on around them. So one of the things is they would like to have another satellite office where they can go in and feel safe to be doing their reports. But it would also give another facility that would allow citizens to go in maybe and possibly. I mean, we'd be exploring, we don't know at this point what
Okay.
kind of function this was. But at the minimum, it would be civilian possibly. If we ended up having the general budget to allow extra police staff to man the station, then possibly it could be that. But at this point, we're just proposing it to be civilian staff.
Okay.
The next topic is community character. And we're proposing one goal here and 10 policies. Some of the policies that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight is policy CC3. This is where we're evaluating the creation of a historic district. We've already got in our Sparks Municipal Code the establishment of regulations on how to do that, but we would just have to look at. Also in the document in the Sparks Today chapter, we also identified that we've done 8 assessments over numerous years we had gotten grants to do an evaluation on historic structures in our downtown area. And there's a map provided in chapter 3 that shows you those areas where we did conduct those surveys. There were 8 of them over a succession of years. Policy CC4 directs the city to increase as feasible the number of special events. That was one of the comments that came out a lot in our survey, was that people want these special events. So we're going to have to look at maybe possibly increasing the numbers, but also how one of our challenges is going to be how, if we keep them in the downtown, how they're going to operate. As you know, with the construction right now, a lot of the staging areas and parking areas are being eliminated. Under policy CC6, we're proposing to encourage public art in our major and private and public projects throughout the city. And we've already, the council's already approved that there be a Arts and Culture Commission, and they're working on establishing that right now. Under policy CC10, it requires us working, or the city working with the Regional Transportation Commission and the Department of Transportation to plan and design. I don't know what caused that, but yeah.
Don't do it.
I think
The
art
and
probably
culture.
art's to blame for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I haven't moved.
I'll take the blame.
Anyway, now that I've got your attention.
Yeah.
The major road capacity expansions to minimize the degree to which the widening of the street divides a neighborhood or creates barriers for pedestrian, bicyclists, and other non-motorized travel. What this is getting at, this policy is getting at, is we don't want, if you widen the street through a neighborhood, we don't want that to end up creating a psychological and physical barrier in that neighborhood.
Karen?
Yeah.
On policy CC6, encouraging public art, what does that entail? I
Well,
mean, what would we like to see?
We, at this point, haven't defined what that would be, but we, as projects if a project came in with a plaza, we'd say, well, have you considered putting in some art structure in the middle of that plaza, or even doing, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I would think even a nice fountain would be considered like an art kind of, So as projects come in, we would say, have you considered, or encourage them to do that.
I know this goes back, and Doug might refresh me on it, but wasn't there somebody on public or on the city's property that was drawing people's faces and trying to sell them or something, and it went to the Supreme Court, I think?
He was not doing character art. He had effectively paintings that he had made that he was trying to sell without
A license.
a business license on city property. It was not accepted. The certiorari petition was not accepted. The Ninth Circuit said that he could do that, and that requiring him to do otherwise violated his First Amendment rights. So yes, is the answer.
But this would be more towards.
But I don't think that the public art that Ms. Melby is speaking about is.
Well, that's
is
what I want
this
to
type of-
clarify.
No, we're talking about sculptures.
Okay.
Or murals or something like that. It's more that direction, not somebody, a vendor.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
On this point also, the city council has essentially provided an allocation of the 2.5% new tax that's earmarked for projects at Return Square to see the public art program for downtown.
Good.
So that's an example of an action on the part of the city that would be supported by having a policy like this in books.
Good, thank you, Armando.
Right. That was me, sorry.
So, in the housing and affordability topic, we're proposing 3 goals and 10 policies. The first goal, H1, is intended to ensure that there will be sufficient adequately zoned areas with infrastructure available, public facilities available, services necessary for the production of new homes. And that would be any type of homes, from apartments to cluster to single-family homes. Other policies, we promote a variety of housing types, such as H2, and emphasize the importance of connecting the housing with multiple transportation. Again, this is an example of where we're trying to integrate the connectivity or the transportation element with the housing. So we're saying that it's important to have housing, but we also need to look at where we're putting this housing so there is available transportation opportunities for people. The also policies H6 and H7 address the city's needs to comply with the state requirements for housing, while others are included to facilitate the development of multi-generational housing. One of the things that we did add to you, based on the public input that we've gotten when we had the draft go to you on the 4th, so one of the comments we did receive was there was concern that we didn't have anything on senior housing, and so we have added to our policies some wording that specifically address senior housing. So that is one change that we did do change between the August 4th document that you cite and this one.
Where's that in, Ken?
I can.
What section?
426.
420.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
And we also added, under connectivity, I think we added that the transportation would also address the needs for seniors and children under one of the policies. That was another change that, based on some input that we got, that was another change to one of the policies that we did do under connectivity. The housing and affordability section also acknowledges that there's a strong and diverse housing market is critical to our economy for the city. Under resiliency and conservation, we're proposing 4 goals and 25 policies. If you look in comparison to the other topics, this is a lot more policies, substantially a lot more policies, and that's because this topic is addressing our conservation element, which has a broad range of, water resources to water conservation, to geologic hazards, that's that kind of stuff too. So that's why we have 25 policies that we're proposing to you tonight. I don't know if you've noticed that this section actually had substantially more policies than the other topics. There are multiple policies such as RC1 through RC7 that target conservation and protection of our water resources. In policy RC8, we call for the city to plan for and adapt to increased drought and severe weather conditions with other potentials impact variability for the water supply for the city, since we are dependent on the precipitation. Other policies direct the city to coordinate with regional agencies to improve our air quality. That's RC9. Work to increase the city's urban tree canopy, which is RC10. Work regionally in an effort to develop and implement a strategy to diversify our energy resources. That was another comment that came out from the survey, was that the citizens would like to see a diversification in our energy resources. Policy RC21 calls for the city to evaluate the feasibility of a decentralized water treatment option, including a package plant and satellite facilities to complement the Truckee Meadows wastewater reclamation facility. This policy that we're proposing is very different from the standing policy that the city has had, that everything goes to Tumwater. But with some of the potential development that's going to be coming, this was added as a possibility that we would be evaluating if that's going to be needed, and then also where it would go. RC 23 is for preservation and protection of significant natural resources. That was another one that came out. Previously, the wording was on protection and preservation of natural amenities, but we added the word significant because one of the concerns that came out in one of our stakeholder meetings was, so is that a little rock cropping or is it a big one? So we added the word significant. And that would be a policy decision by the Planning Commission, City Council, on if they felt that, that's significant or not. But that's one wording that we did add to that policy. On policy RC 24, we promote the protection of cultural resources.
Karen?
Yeah.
Real quick, you have up there resiliency and conservation, but here I got resiliency and sustainability. So, and so does Diana, so I'm wondering.
That's probably a typo on my part.
On 427?
Yeah, it's a typo in my slide. That's what I get for trying to hurry up and pull the PowerPoint
So it's
together.
conservation or
No,
sustainability?
sustainability.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's
all
a
right.
typo on my part. And the last topic is economic vitality. We're proposing 6 goals and 10 policies. Some of the policies I wanted to bring to your attention was EV1, which specifies that the city build on our position as a leader in special events by investing additional resources to event venues and adding also new events. And again, this is related to our previous one where we were saying adding events I think it was under community character. So this is another policy that's interrelating between other policies. Policy RB4 directs the city to develop and implement a strategy for attracting new investments and more employment-dense, higher-paying industries to the region between the area between Interstate 80 and the Truckee River. Policy EB5 calls for the city to undertake an analysis necessary to determine the feasibility of expanding the city limits to include the area east of the city's corporate boundary and north of Interstate 80 for job-generating land uses. Again, this is another one that interrelates back to our managing growth policies. Policy EV10 requires prior to or with an application of a land use approval, such as a tentative map, administrative review, or conditional use permit, development projects on greenfields of 20 or more acres to demonstrate that they are fiscally positive to the city for a period of at least 20 years. The city's foremost economic development responsibility is to assure that Sparks is an appealing place to live, work, and do business. Sparks does so by providing municipal infrastructure, facilities, and services in an efficient and most cost-effective basis. Given that the interrelated and the overlapping nature of this plan's policy framework, many aspects of the city's economic development role has been addressed in other sections. The economic vitality policies therefore focus on more typical economic development goals, such as attracting and retaining investment and jobs in our region. The last chapter of the comp plan is implementation and measuring strategies. What we've done in this chapter is we've taken all of the goals and policies, which according to my math is 121 total, and we've put them in a matrix, each goal in each matrix under the topic. And the matrix is the same for each topic. It addresses the responsible department or agency for that policy. The intent is that the city does a strategic plan, which we annually look at what direction the city wants to go. And so the intent is that annually they would look at this plan and incorporate it into the strategic plan. Another column that would be is what resources are required to implement these policy or goals. And then the purpose is to the purpose of this matrix is to evaluate the effectiveness of our comprehensive plan. It also will highlight areas that need more attention. So when we've got a policy that we haven't done anything on a year, when we go through it, we'll say, oh, we need to be looking at that policy. Another big component of our land use, of this comprehensive plan, is the land use map. And we've talked about this before, but briefly I just wanted to go back through. Our current adopted land use map has 61 land use categories. And what we were using is the land use designations in our plan developments. We have 43 plan developments. We also had a separate map for our transit-oriented developments. What we're proposing in here is to combine actually 14 land use categories, down into 14 land use categories, and then 6 what we're calling mixed-use development districts, and I'll talk about that shortly. Our categories are broader in nature. The residential densities are much larger categories. It provides more flexibility. Now the plan developments that we have within the city, they are designated our land use designations and not taking their land use designations and putting them on our map. This, in a lot of ways, will give some of the plan developments a larger range, a broad range for like particularly densities, residential densities. So hopefully maybe we won't have to do as many master plan amendments within the plan developments. But it also, as a clarification on the land use map, if you are wanting to develop, for example, if your land use on your plan development says 4 to 6 dwelling units, and now our designation is 6 to 10 dwelling units per acre, this does not give you the right to go up to the 10 dwelling units unless you wanted to change it. You are still within whatever, the handbooks, the plan development handbooks are still your zoning documents. So staff will be going back to those zoning documents to direct what will be developed in this. But we do have more flexibility with this plan. One of the other things that we've done, as you remember when we adopted the zoning code last August, we removed the transit-oriented development, or the TOD, and changed it to a mixed-use district. That's what we're also going to be doing with this, is we're removing, and that's one I'll talk about in a minute, that's one of the plans that we're removing is the TOD plan, and we're going to be calling it MUD. We are merging the MUD map, or the TOD map, onto our land use map, so it's all going to be one map instead of 2 separate maps. And we are translating, basically we're translating the existing land uses within the city into our new broader categories, or equivalent land use categories. This is the land use map. The intent was to simplify by making broader categories. For example, the proposed intermediate density, RDR designation, permits residential densities from 6 to 10 dwelling units. In comparison, the current map has 10 designations that overlap the same category. So that's what we're trying to do, is including to narrow it down. There's also a consolidation of some categories, including reduction in the number of commercial land uses. We only have 1 commercial. We don't have an office designation anymore. That's incorporated into the commercial. The proposed land use map does not change what is currently allowed in planned developments. It just, as I mentioned, we are converting their land uses into our land use designations. The new map, however, will potentially permit handbooks to be modified without requiring a master plan amendment. We feel this less categories makes it easier to understand and also administrate. One of the things that we noticed in going through the categories is that commercial does not allow multifamily uses. And if you look at the table, we don't allow multifamily. Well, our zoning district allows multifamily districts. And so we're requesting tonight as staff that you allow this in your motion, if you are going to make a motion to approve or adopt the master plan tonight, or comprehensive plan, that you would include in your motion that we can change that land use to incorporate multifamily. We want to be consistent with our zoning designation. As I mentioned earlier, as part of this adoption of the comprehensive plan, we're proposing to eliminate 3 of our existing area plans. The first one is the Northern Sparks Sphere of Influence. This plan was adopted in 1991 and it covers the Spanish Springs Valley within the city limits. It was established land uses and was used for planning of provisions of facilities and infrastructure. This area is mostly developed or either planned for at this point, so we feel that the plan is actually no longer serving this area. It also has in that as one of the policies that any development within the NSSOI area requires a planned development. And with the adoption of this comprehensive plan and the elimination of the NSSOI plan, that would be eliminating that policy, that we would not require that any development within the Spanish Springs area would then, or former NSSOI area, would have to have a planned development handbook anymore. The next plan that we're proposing to eliminate was adopted in 2008. This is the area west of Pyramid Highway in the Spanish Springs Valley. It's generally not developed, but the majority of it is the Sonoma Highlands Handbook. So it is covered by that plan development. The TOD plan is the last one that we're proposing for elimination. And that was adopted in 2009. What we've done is we've gone through that plan and incorporated the policies and goals and I can't think of the word, but the intent or whatever in that we've incorporated that into the current plan that is before you now. We went through and looked through the whole document and said, okay, we want to keep this and we will put this in that section. So we are incorporating the TOD. So we're not really and truly, honestly, not eliminating this plan. We're just eliminating the terminology, the TOD, to now be called a mixed-use district. What we'd like to reserve the right, staff would like to request that we reserve the right that as we go through, I've already found some mistakes, typo mistakes. We would like to reserve the right that we can do editorial changes that would not change the substantive or the content change. So we want to be able to reserve the right as we're reviewing this document in the future. If you approve it tonight, that we want to reserve that we can do editorial changes without having it come back to the Planning Commission. That does conclude my presentation, and we are recommending that you approve it, or hope that you approve it. I'd be happy to, any discussion, comments, questions?
Questions from the commission?
I have one. Karen, if we should approve this and then you make these changes, are we going to be notified to the changes made? You reserve the rights to make these changes?
We can notify you, yeah, if you would prefer that, but I'm talking about editorial changes. One of the things, for example, on the cover.
Ms. Milby, can we not call them editorial changes? Can we call them typographical errors,
Okay,
please?
typographical
Thank you.
Oh, those,
where we're getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
For
that's
example,
it.
on the front cover, one example is, it says the plan guiding the Sparks. And that should say either the city of Sparks or get rid of the word the.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
That's fine.
And then also, I received some comments. When I was writing the section, chapter 3 on Sparks Today, I did work with all of the different departments within the city, and the fire department provided me with some statistics, and Chief Garrison contacted me this week and said that the numbers he gave me were incorrect. So that's another correction that we would like to be able to do, is get the correct statistics based from the fire department in the document.
Well,
So
I-
that's the kind of typographic changes
I
that
was
we would
just
like to
basically
incorporate.
worried about meat changes, you know,
No,
somewhere.
if they're substantial, we would definitely bring them back to you, but I'm talking about corrections like that.
I have a question for Ms. Melby. Last time we spoke of a silo, and you referred to it again tonight as silo, but in your background, bottom of page 2, master plan, next to last paragraph, you refer to it as solo elements. So do you want to use the phraseology solo or silo elements as a reference to how
It
the
should be
plan-
silo.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So if you look at the bottom, in your background, please, bottom of page 2, next to last paragraph,
Oh, in the staff report are you talking about?
in the overview,
Oh,
I can just give you the page.
that should be silo.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're right.
Thank you.
I believe in the document, we actually say silo, not
Yeah.
solo. I
And
will
we
check
referred
that.
to it as silo
That's-
last time.
That could be another typo. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a few questions. First of all, I didn't get page 436 in my manual. I got two 434s, just so,
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can,
That was.
since you made 40 of them, just want to make sure that,
I apologize. That
Oh, no,
was one of
that's
our
okay.
correction pages. that we
okay.
did, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted you to know that I got.
I can get that page too.
Thanks.
or-
Thank you. And then on page 432, policy RC20, it's saying prohibit the use of diesel oil-fueled internal combustion power generation units.
That one is straight out of the regional plan.
Okay, all right. And then,
We've incorporated the policies from the regional plan. That was
Okay.
another thing that we did was, Jim and I went through all the policies in the regional plan, and we identified which section in this chapter they would be addressed.
Okay,
So
perfect.
we've gone through all of the regional plan policies and goals and tried to incorporate
I
those.
just have one more. One more quick
Can we
one.
stay, are you still going to stay in sustainability?
Nope. So if you have sustainability,
do.
I can wait for my next one.
Thanks. Not to leapfrog.
No.
but when we're talking about sustainability, is there any chance of a policy that addresses gray water and recycling as we talk about, conservation of resources? There's a wonderful program on Sunday, PSA, talks about, some of the cities that are doing some pretty exotic things with reclaiming water, and realize we're talking about goals, policies, but my observation is that doable within the next 30 years as we look
We
at
have an
this?
extensive recycling,
Well, and if I may,
Did I miss
Chairman
it?
Camerota, policy RC1 reads reduce per capita potable water use through conservation, water reclamation, and reuse and other water resource stewardship programs. So our effluent program is actually covered, if you will, under
Okay.
RC1.
And thank you, Commissioner Vanderwall. Thank you for letting me leapfrog.
Sure. And then, page 328, you provided a figure, and first of all, I want to say thank you for putting in figure 313, breaking out the permit. Now, my question is when you're addressing planning cases, what's the definition of a planning case?
that's all our PCNs. So that's not necessarily the number of applications because we have, our process is that we call it planning case. That's what PCN stands for, a planning case number.
Okay.
And so a lot of times, if you have a annexation and a master plan and a rezone, that'll all be under one planning case, and not, even though it's 3 applications. So this is representing how many planning cases that we have submitted each year.
Okay, so in other words, it's a mix of if there's development or anything else that's just all put together
Yeah.
and named a planning case.
That's it. So a lot of times, you know, if it's a zone change and a conditional use permit, it'll have the same case number.
Okay.
It's basically, you might think of it in a sense as a project, right? So,
Right.
if you have, you know, if someone is doing something that requires multiple entitlements or steps, and they're aggregated in a single planning case, but it's one project.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking this is we, as planning commissioners hopefully and staff, and we understand planning, but outside having the general public, what's the difference between a project, a plan, you know, and things like that? I guess that's where I'm getting, okay, is, you know, it's lumped into one and it could incorporate all different kinds of things that equal out to a planning case. That's just what my question is, so,
Okay.
thank you.
I'd like to come back to background. You referenced that there was an insert and that indicated where the former master plan was and how that's been addressed in the current. I don't, was that in our package? You mentioned there was a chart, but it did not appear on the screen.
What you were talking, you and Jim went through and located where things are, where they meet. On the
I did the
region.
regional plan. We
Okay.
took all the
Was-
policies
is
to the
what-
regional
Yeah.
plan.
So that was.
Was there a chart or a page? Okay, you're just referencing that, okay.
Yeah. No, that was a working document for staff.
Okay. Not to be included in this package. Okay, thank you.
I'm really impressed with this that you put together, honestly. Not only is it gonna be easier and fairer for the developers coming in, but for staff. You know, you go right to the page. I know Jim and I were talking about incorporating everything together like that. I mean, it's just, this right here is more or less like the Bible, this comprehensive plan, really. And there's you gotta take our hats off to, staff, to RAD, all the downtown people. What impressed me, I think, the most is your community outreach. I know before there's been a lot of surveys sent out, and I don't know how many cities sent out before, but you might have got 200 or 300 back, maybe. This time it was just really, the citizens of Sparks, they really want to get involved, it seems like. And it's a good way to kind of, open their eyes of what we're really doing here. So I really am impressed. It's good, it's good.
Any comments?
Yeah, let's stay on the outreach. One of the things, as you remember, we were concerned and we discussed at the last meeting on the outreach was organizations and groups of whether you've gotten input, and we actually put together an actual list. Could you explain, and we gave you probably 10, was that Diane? On that?
It was a few.
It was quite a few on the list. Could you go through your meeting with those people or what you've done since our question?
We've contacted all of them. At this point, we haven't had meetings. They are looking at possibly doing some meetings next week with a couple of them, but,
Who's they?
do
Yeah, no, I mean,
you remember, Karen? I don't have the email with me.
Could- yeah, if you could come up, I want to get specific.
But we have contacted them, and all of those agencies, the groups that you had on your list,
Mhm.
they've all been on our email lists. So we've been sending them all through the whole process. We've been contacting them all through the process.
Right, let's go through some specifics of what
Yeah.
you've,
Okay, so this is as of mid-afternoon
Can
today?
you introduce
Yeah.
yourself?
I'm sorry, Karen Craig.
yes, Gary.
Creative Cities and RAD Strategies. So as of 4:15 this afternoon, it says, here's a quick update on the builders outreach. Number one, the Nevada Builders Alliance, they
Right.
responded with a date and options for they're available the last week of August. They want to meet in Reno, any day works, blah, blah. The AGC is working on options for dates. We followed up, and it's a timing and scheduling. The following groups are interested. They're very appreciative for being contacted. We're waiting for responses from the Builders Association of Northern Nevada, the American Planning Association, the AIA of Northern Nevada, and the Reno Sparks Association of Realtors.
Okay, so that's where you are.
Yes.
So you actually emailed them, discussed on phone?
Called them.
So you actually talked to them. Wonderful, at least discussed. But all of them are saying, here's some dates. Yeah, I guess what I'm used to in most of these things, what I would call these type of projects is normally what we have. I'm used to on other things, we're talking about groups, technical action committees, different groups that are in our industry, and these were the type of people. And and that's what I'm mostly concerned about, and that's why I brought it up, is that we don't seem to have had meetings with them. I know just because we sent them, some they didn't. I'm very concerned long-term if we don't get their buy-in and involvement in this thing. And so that's.
Some of them have attended our stakeholder meetings. We've had some of them attend our stakeholder meetings.
Who? Of these groups?
Of members from these groups.
Yeah.
Of members from these groups?
So again, the stakeholders and the champions. So stakeholders were invited 3 times with 3 meetings each, of which these groups would have been on that list.
Right.
To come to a meeting with us, to go on the bus tour like many of you went on.
All right.
And then this is yet another, yeah.
Okay, and then secondarily, then that's fine that you did that during that point. Now, since you wrote this report, I only received my full report here Monday. Have these groups actually been given this report? Because those are the things we want them to look at. I'm having no problem with your outreach
Yeah.
of trying to get, but
We sent them-
then we develop a document, and have you actually gone through them, or are they coming, or now you're getting them and they would like to review it?
So I think they appreciate the outreach.
Right.
They seem aware, but slow in that it was before you tonight, and the meetings are coming afterwards,
All right.
but nonetheless seem appreciative.
But we did ahead of time, we did send them an email with a link to the document.
When was this? Well, we only received
It was before the 4th, before you even had your first meeting. So we sent them an email saying
You know,
that this document's available online.
It would seem like the AGC, they know exactly what we're doing, you know, and as far as them not setting a date and coming in, and, I mean, it just seems like, you know, we're not gonna babysit them. I mean, they know darn good and well what we're doing and why they should be involved. And, you know, if they don't wanna be involved, then they shouldn't come down and have a fit, because they never had a say-so. I mean, that's what I think about it.
But we
They've
did
had
send out an
plenty of
email
time.
to all, I believe, the champions and stakeholders that had the link of the document.
And it's not just the building industry.
Right.
So a different example would be, let's talk about Edon, that put
Right.
out an entire vision of what's happening and never came to a single meeting or returned a single call. So there's a certain extent of, I know we're all on the same page, but shame on them. And I'll say that as somebody that tried.
I can hardly see how we would want to hold up the progress that we've made, especially the work that you put into this. For all that, they have been contacted for meetings, that we should hold up any further progress on this thing because of them wanting later meetings. I can hardly see us doing that.
I also think it's interesting that other subgroups tracked us along the way. So for example, the Retail Association participated in several meetings
Right.
to be able to inform their constituents about how this might affect retail, grocery, and other. So,
Right.
you know, in terms of interest groups, we did get some
And the
really,
chamber.
yeah, the chamber was fabulous.
May I ask a question?
Edon never
You're the chairman.
contacted you people one time, Edon? No. Out of all of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've contacted them and
Umpteen times.
called them too,
And
just not
called,
just
and
emailed.
held up the document saying, you're the one in the EPIC report that wrote this forecast. So
Yeah.
here's the plan that responds to the growth coming. Do you want to make sure it meets that expectation?
Were the nifty And number 10 groups, were they again noticed about tonight's meeting?
They know,
Go ahead, Karen, you're not
Not sure, that's okay.
I would like to look back up and see,
Thank you.
because I didn't write the invitation myself, so I'm trying to match what went out.
Obviously, there's this paucity of
Also, the neighborhood notice had all the dates on it.
participation tonight. In support of what you're saying, there's a lack of participation.
Right, I think we mailed to every citizen in Sparks.
It was on the public notice.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So
Yes, ma'am.
after the,
Workshop?
well, after this agenda item was posted to the city's website last Friday,
Right.
which is when, it really became
Right.
available to the public, and it's in this specific form. Again, I think, everybody, Karen and Karen both reference how we provided links to the document in its previous incarnation, the version that was provided to you for the August 4th workshop. So it's substantively, by and large, very similar. Again, this last Friday, we posted it to the website, and Mr. Rundle, emailed the link to a number of parties, specifically including the agency and the builders, to say, hey, it's in its final form, it's going to public hearing on the 18th. So if you're interested please take a look at it, and please take a look in particular at Chapter 4, which is the goals and policies for the plan. So I can appreciate both the perspectives that I'm hearing from planning commissioners this evening in terms of, we've been very above board in terms of, here are the steps, here are the neighborhood meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I can appreciate, the desire to move forward with it. I can also appreciate the perspective that's been expressed by a couple of you that, if they haven't yet engaged, then, it's maybe somewhat of a concern that at some point they will engage and they'll do it. So, that question is up to the planning commission. Certainly, if you're prepared as a body to take action on it tonight, then, you can do so. I think if you wish to defer it and allow maybe some of these meetings that maybe there's been some interest in having with the staff, then that's certainly an option. So it's up to you. We will, staff will support, if you want us to do those additional meetings. If you choose to defer, we'll meet with those groups who are willing to do so. So I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate both perspectives, and whatever it is that your pleasure is, it's your plan, as we've said to you previously. We will act accordingly.
Armando, and I do appreciate you saying that, like, you can go either way. We can either pass it tonight if we want, or we can go out of our way and try to contact, the other people. But how many times we got, you contact them, they don't show up, then what? Here we go again. We're going to, delay. I don't know. I mean, I'm ready to support it.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember the dates, but what was the date when we did the neighborhood workshops?
It was July 26th and 27th. And that's the notice that we sent out to 36,300 and some people. And on that notice, we also include both of your workshop for the Planning Commission on August 4th, and we also included tonight's public hearing. So
Okay.
we included not only those workshops, but also the Planning Commission public meetings.
Okay, because in looking at this and mailing out, over 36,000 notices to that many people concerns me that only 75 people showed up to do two different workshops. And then when you look at timing, which I realize this was that we were trying to get it done, to get it in front of us and everything else. July 26th and 27th was 2 weeks before school started. So I guess what my question is when we're mailing stuff out like that, how many people are hurrying up and finishing last vacations before school starts and everything else? So I guess what my question is did you get any feedback from people that maybe were not able to attend these two workshops or anything else? The reason I'm asking this is because I'm watching in other jurisdictions where there is definite community dislike for things that are happening in it. And my concern is just the apathy. So,
We did receive one comment. Of all of the, I mean, we received a handful of comments on our website through the email address that we had set up with the Ignite Sparks. Most of them were complaints, specific things like weeds or dogs and things like that. But we did receive one comment, and that's why they were concerned that we didn't address senior housing and the senior access. And so, so we sent out the, that's why we've incorporated changing those policies that include, make sure specifically that we address concerns for senior housing.
okay, thank you. Because I do want to say thank you. You guys have worked very hard. The outreach has been tremendous. It does concern me when you mail that many postcards out to
And then
have so little.
We were actually excited that we got that many people attending, because that happens so many times on these neighborhood meetings that we were expecting a lot less. So we were excited that we got that many. And every time we did get an email, we did respond to that email, and we also gave them a link to the webpage. So even though they may have only not necessarily making a comment relative to the comp plan, we still emailed them back and gave them a link to the comp plan.
I have a question for council. If we reach out to this group, this minion of 10, are we trying to shape anything here? Is there a danger that by just going back to them and saying one last time, one last effort, is there a danger in doing it that way?
I don't think so. I don't think so, other than, I think the broader question posed by Mr. Ornelas, which is effectively, so then what, right? So you ask them one more time and they don't respond, then what is your plan?
Right. Apathy. Thank you.
I think it's worth noting on the opposite of apathy is that how many of our residents took the long form of the
Yeah.
survey.
Right.
So we didn't see apathy in their
Right.
input. We saw apathy in the process of how you shape a plan and how a plan affects people. They seem to be delighted to have been asked.
Sure.
And so if our job was to listen to what they asked for and have the plan reflect it, I think that Karen and the planning staff did an incredible job in responding to what people spent a lot of personal time responding to.
Right.
Any further questions from the commission? This is a public hearing, so I'd like to open the public hearing. Would anyone like to come forward and speak? Once again, public comment is limited to 3 minutes for each commentator. If one would like to speak, please fill out a card at the end of the dais. Come forward with your name. Anyone like to come forward? Close the public hearing.
I think you got one. I'm going to be a member of the public for a second.
Have you filled out a card?
Will you?
I'll
Will
fill
you?
out a card. I'm
Thank you.
Karen Craig, and I'm a citizen of the city of Reno and been very involved in Reno for the past 20 years in terms of planning and involvement. And I didn't spend a lot of time in Sparks. I have completely fallen in love with this community as a result of this process. The passion of people who live here, the staff, which is amazing. I think the Planning Commission has been terrific, and so has council in making an effort to listen to citizens. And I am now very proud to be a resident of the Truckee Meadows of Reno, Sparks, and Northern Nevada, because I too now am a great fan of Sparks process and the people who live here.
Thank you. State your name, please.
My name is Greg Evangelatos. I'm a professional planning consultant. My residence is 1365 Hilltop Road, Reno, Nevada. I am working on an application to submit to the Planning Commission City Council. And what I used the draft, especially Section 4, and spent most of the day today kind of going through that. And I think it's fairly clear, concise, and well-written. and I think Karen and her group should be commended for that. Number two, I think the idea of sort of getting away from plan developments case by case and having, 40 or 50 different zoning codes is, it created a certain environment in Spanish Springs. That's created. Melding it back into a basic template, I think, is a wise move. And I think, generally speaking, the direction that the plan has taken has been quite constructive. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Would you pull out a card, please, at the end?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward in the public hearing? There being none, public hearing is closed. Bring it back to the commission. Comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'd like to make one comment. I think reaching out continually to people that don't come back to you, I think is just a circle that will never end. So I'm ready to make a motion and get this thing rolling. There's no more comments.
Any other comments from the commission?
I'm ready to.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion. I move to approve the comprehensive plan associated with PCN 16039 and forward it to the city council for certification with allowing multifamily in the C or the commercial use.
And also the reserve the right of staff to change.
And then to reserve the clerical errors in the report for staff to change.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor?
Could we, discussion, is what happens at this point. Discussion, I do like majority of it, I'm not disagreeing. I really think waiting maybe a month would allow us sometimes with some of these groups, also some of the organizations looking through it. I know this thing has been pushed fast, so I won't be voting for this.
Any other? All right. We have a first, we have a second. We'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No.
Nay. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Move on to general business. There are no general business items. Last time for public comment, not the last time. This is again for general public comment, limited to items that do not appear on the agenda, and is limited to no more than 3 minutes for each commentator pursuant to NRS 241.020. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item until the matter has been specifically included on an agenda. Is or are there any public comments? There being none, comments back to the commissioners for final comments.
I'd just like to say, appreciate staff and everybody that was involved in this comprehensive plan that we're going forward with it.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that in an non-elected way. Any other comments? Call for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.